Hey there, and welcome to another segment here of Coffee Talk. Grab a cup of coffee because we have one of the leading technical consultant experts in the industry, the infamous Randy Johnston, K2 Enterprises. For those who don't know, Randy is Accounting Today's top 100 most influential people. He's a top 25 thought leader of the accounting industry, inducted into the CPA Practice Advisor Accounting Hall of Fame in 2011, and has over 40 years of management and technical consulting experience. Randy, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Pleased to do so, Chris. It's such a pleasure to spend time with you and your listeners.
So what's new in practice management these days, Randy?
Well, Chris, there's so doggone much going on. I'm going to give you a little story background on this because, frankly, none of us expected the pandemic to occur. And so I was out on the road like I usually am. In fact, was in New York on my last trip before that occurred. But when I came home, I basically stayed home for a couple of years. During that time frame, I did more reviews of software than I've done in maybe my entire career. So if you start thinking about that for a minute, I've always tried to be pretty literate on applications. And I had Seth Feinberg reach out to me and say, Randy, I want you to write a summary of practice management. I said, Seth, that's a lot of work. No, I don't think so. And he said, no, you really like to learn stuff and you ought to do this for me. And I'm thinking, maybe. And I said, well, Seth, maybe that's an okay thing to do. So I, at the time, perceived that there were only about 17 practice management products in the market that I thought were worthwhile. And once I got done doing the research for that and the hundreds of hours, no exaggeration, to write the report, I realized that there were almost double that, 33 practice management products. And since that time, I'm now up to tracking 48 different practice management products used in CPA firms. An unconscionable number as I think about it, when I really believe that in 2020, there were only about 17 worth tracking. Now, when you think about that, the fundamentals are still the same. The partners are really concerned about accommodating different billing methods. So, the sophistication of value billing, for example, or flat rate billing, they need all that, but they also want project management and workflow in these systems today. And many systems are putting that in there for us. We do know that the firms that are trying to use separate project management products are generally not very happy with them. And I'm not throwing stones at the likes of Asana or Trello or ClickUp, but the firms that are using those tell me they just don't get enough management done.
It sounds like a tremendous amount of innovation in the industry just in the last couple of years, which is really exciting for firms. They'll have more options and may be able to create some more automation. Here's a loaded question here. I'm sure you get this question all the time, which is, how can firms manage their practices better? And that's a loaded question, Randy.
It is a loaded question, but I would just suggest that, over the last 8 years, I've run the Accounting Firm and Operations Technology Survey. So I have pretty good, solid statistical information on what's done in the U.S. Interestingly enough, Caseware ran a global survey this past year for the first time. And there's been other management surveys that I've looked at through the years. Number one for Caseware in their survey this year was visibility and workflow, which I thought was an interesting outcome. It's been high in my AFOT survey for some time, but this combination of workflow and project management are big deals. Something that's never been resolved in practice management products is good reporting. The partners always ask about, how do I get better reports? It's really key to our day-to-day operations. It's key to our profitability. We can't see what we want. And I get that over and over and over again. Now, there are great tools out there For example, the software company out of New York, WSG, has a product called Empire Resource. That's now been integrated into the CCH Access workflow platform. But Bill Cornfield there has built a really wonderful overall scheduling type of platform. And, that's competing against the ProStaff platform, which is about the only other major scheduling platform out there. You can do a little bit of it in Access Workflow. But the firms want to manage their people better. They want to manage their engagements better, and they want to manage their profitability better. So, I'm not sure that's the 1, 2, 3 punch, because there's still some more things about document management and portals that we could be talking about in practice management.
But it all seems like it comes back to reporting, and better reporting is needed in the industry. Is that correct? And how can we go about getting there for these firms too, so they have the data they need to run their firms more effectively and efficiently?
Yeah, you're right. Reporting's been a problem, all the way back that I can think of on this. And, it's more than just WIP reports. And part of it might be the partner compensation models that are used as well. Many of the partner comp models that I've looked at are pretty contorted, frankly. But there's also focus on niche practices that needs to be reported. So consultants to profession are frequently asking firms to verticalize and focus on niche, and they need reporting in those service lines, as it turns out. So there's many factors that determine what partners need to manage their practice. The reporting capabilities have improved in some solutions. So I'm going to pick on a few by name, simply because they are hooked into the common Thompson Practice CS or CCH Practice or Practice Access Practice products and others. One example of that might be like Abdo Solutions. Another one could be for Impact Data. Both of those two tools are based on Power BI, and they do live interactive reporting. Now, it turns out CCH actually has a Power BI reporting module, and you can get access by licensing access to their DAO. That's their data, if you will. And because of the acquisition of XCM, the CCH Access Workflow data warehouse is pretty phenomenal in terms of being able to report out things. So what's happening right now is firms are looking for better ways to get to this data. There's a few of the practice management products that have the right data structures for the reporting. APS is like that. AV is like that. Templeton's Practice Pro 365 is like that, which also, by the way, uses Power BI for its reporting. But the next answer to your question was reporting pretty much sucks everywhere, and it hadn't gotten a lot better lately. Tool providers using Power BI are trying to solve the problem that way, but we still need a better dynamic reporting mechanism, as I would see it in these platforms.
Completely agree. So let's jump into practice management just for a minute here. No matter what size and where they are in the market and length of time in business, what are some of the ideal should-bes in a solid practice management solution?
Yeah. And here, I'm going to give you multiple segments. And the trick is trying to find all these things in a single platform. What has historically had to been done in firms is we've had to piece the things together. So the fundamental at the low end is time and billing. Once we get beyond that, then it starts to become more staff management, really starts turning into practice management. So if you add things like workflow, add things like document management, add things like portals, add things like due date tracking, and you can see I'm just kind of piling more and more and more into this. Add in staff scheduling, add in payments, add in accounting. And you can see I could name 5, 7, possibly even 10 different functions. But I believe the 3 or 4 real fundamentals are the time and billing functionality, the workflow functionality, and the document management functionality. It'd be real nice to have good portal functionality there as well. And you could kind of get by on some of the others. But part of the reason we see so many third-party point solutions is it's clear that there's no magic bullet out there right now. There's no one platform that does it all. Now, you will see some new practice management tools arrive. There's some early stage offerings right now, but I know of at least one major platform that's being developed anew that hasn't even begun marketing yet. So, the number's going to go up from my 48 to somewhere north of 50, I figure it, in the next little while. But we can also take a real straightforward product that's very inexpensive. In fact, the least cost sophisticated product in the marketplace that I'm aware of is TPS Cloud Access. Those boys are charging roughly $20 per user per month. And the standard in the profession has migrated towards $50 to $100 per user per month. That's a big difference. And TPS has Power BI reporting in it, and it has pretty much all the things that we're talking about. Workflows in there. They've really updated their workflow and so forth. So again, it's a bit of a dogfight out there, but I'll just close with one other, minor feature, which is maybe major. If you've got document management in a portal, you pretty much have to have e-signature. And the way the DocuSigns and the Adobe Signs and others are providing that experience today isn't all that good. So I have been watching some of the new e-signature products that are in the market. One that I like very much for its workflow capability is one called Verdocs, which allows an automation of the workflow out to the client level. And like we'll talk in another coffee talk, about the client experience in portals, I think this may change the e-signature industry if Verdocs continues to go as they've gone.
Randy, without endorsing a specific product or vendor, and you were talking to a small, medium-sized firm that maybe is in the 5 to 20 employees and trying to guide them in the best direction for a practice management solution, where do they start?
Yeah. And, you're asking the same question, Chris, that a lot of partners ask.
Right.
And again, I don't think there's a real silver bullet here. Now, I will throw out some options here because, in the old days, I used to, regularly suggest office tools could get you from that 5-person up to 25, 30, or maybe a little bit more. But, the product has not gotten as much attention as I would have hoped after being acquired by Abacus Next. So it hasn't moved as quick as the competitors are moving. There's some new upstarts to the profession that I think are a little more risky to choose that might be able to grow like that. But, if I was betting right now, I'm going to go back and bet on TPS to do what you're saying, because I know I could take you from 5 up through 75 on that platform and be pretty well served. And it's simple enough. You can implement the bloody thing. But another good example of a tool that I like the workflow in it immensely, Clarity Practice Management. It acts like a lot of firms that are tax and client accounting centric act, and I would, again, take it from 5 to 25 or 30 without a real hesitation in the recommendation. So, but, if you put me on the spot and said, okay, start naming other tools that would work for firms that are going to be 10 people or less, boy, I could just start almost spewing them off because there's so many of them. But most of them start running out of gas when it comes to staff management, sophisticated billing, workflow, that they just all of a sudden just don't have those features. It's kind of like QuickBooks or Xero. They've never tackled inventory or job costing because it's too doggone hard to do. Well, we got the same problem in practice management. The really hard stuff, many of these new generation products are not tackling. It's too hard for.
Got it. Well, thank you, Randy, for your time.
Happy to spend the time with you on this topic, because you can tell it's got a lot of change out there. So as they used to say on Hill Street Blues, you be careful out there.